Hi guys, welcome to another video. We're going to be talking about my winter picks for working tarot and oracle decks. I have my brand new rose gold Starbucks cup. So I probably went a little bit overboard with my selections, and that is only because winter to me feels like it's kind of in there's two waves of winter for me. The first wave of winter is obviously like what we're going through right now as we are transitioning from fall to winter. And it's kind of like the winter that is all right before Christmas and like just as we're getting into Christmas season. And then there's the winter in January. And I feel like January and February winter is just a whole different energy. The weather doesn't necessarily warm up, but it just feels different. I don't know how else to explain it. At least that's just how I see it. And so the decks that I pick for those times of the month really kind of feel different. So I probably will do away with some of the decks that I picked and do something completely different. We'll see. But at least right now, the vibe that I'm feeling for winter season is more naturey, earthy, animals, those kinds of decks, and also plants. So that's kind of what you're going to see the majority of in my picks. But let's just get into it. So let's talk about my tarot picks first, because I actually surprisingly I think I have a bit more tarot decks than Oracle. I picked out her Herb Crafters Tarot. This is a deck that I usually pull for springtime because the spring season with the flowers and whatnot. So this is probably going to be something that I will pick, that I will be pulling out more in January. So that's what I'm saying. Like some of these decks are more like my January, February decks. Some of these are not. So we shall see. But I really want to put this one to use because I feel like I don't use this deck nearly as much as I should. The Occult Tarot. So the Occult Tarot is actually one that quite surprised me. I really, really enjoy this deck. I feel like the Occult Tarot goes into the essence of like your shadow. So I tend to use this deck more for shadow readings or looking into the fear energy, looking into the blocks. So if I'm reading for somebody and we're talking about the blocks and the fear energy, the Occult Tarot is probably going to be the one that I pull out. It is actually the fallen angels or the demons, as you can tell. It can be a little bit of a problematic deck for some people. It might be a little uncomfortable for some people to use, but I actually really like it. And I think it's just kind of like a fun little twist to add to readings. The Antique Anatomy Tarot. So I chose the Antique Anatomy because of the blend of the skeletons and the flowers. I think that is such a beautiful combination. I love this deck specifically. I love the card backs. I love the way that the cards just have this very tea-stained vintage feel to them. Again, this is usually one that I pick out for the spring, so I do feel like this is something that I may use later in the winter time. I think the Antique Anatomy Tarot will be a really fun deck to put side by side some of my other Oracle decks. I try to kind of find ones that are going to blend well with each other. So this one will be an interesting one to see how it works with some of my other oracles. Tarot of the Owls. So I actually just picked this one up last week, and I wanted it mainly because it's owls. I love owls. I think they're so cute, so sweet, so mystical. And so I love that the way this deck looks. It's very colorful. It's a huge pop of color. It sticks to just the animal theme. the owl theme, and it blends in with the Rider-Waite. So I thought this one would be a fun pop of color to go with some of the decks that I picked out for my Oracle. So I think this one will be fun to use. The Wild Unknown Tarot, this is the 3rd edition of Wild Unknown. I really enjoy this one the most out of all of them. I do own the 1st edition, but I do feel like this one was kind of the one that was the easiest to shuffle. The cardstock just bends nicely. I'm sorry, did I say 2nd edition or 3rd edition? This is the 2nd edition, Wild Unknown. I'm not sure if I said that correct. But the 3rd edition I do not own, so I don't have the 3rd edition. But I do know that the 2nd edition has really good cardstock. So like I was saying, it's easy to bend, it's easy to shuffle, and the 1st edition has very stiff cardstock, so it makes it a little bit more of a challenge to work with. But Wild Unknown just has always been a winter pick for me. I don't know if it's just because of the deer in the images, the animals. They just feel very wintry to me. So this has always been a fun one to use during December. I really love it for December. So definitely had to have the Wild Unknown. The Avissomnia Tarot by Orla Bird. So this is an independent creator. I really love the minty colors in this deck. I love the simplicity. I love the imagery. It's very out there. It really just gets your intuition going. And I love the way that this just feels in my hands, literally when I'm shuffling the cards. It's just such a good experience. So I love this one. And I think that this is really like a beautiful winter going into spring kind of a deck. So this one will probably stay out on my table for a few months, I'll be honest. And I just really love the way it reads. It's very accurate. And yeah, I'm just really excited to pair some of these up and just see how they look side by side. I picked out the Botanica Occulta Tarot. This is a flower deck, and it really has that tea stain vintage feel. The look of the cards, it's really beautiful. It photographs really nicely. And so I think this is just a nice little fun one to put side by side some of the plant oracles that I will be showing you guys. I love it. There's something about a tarot deck that does not have people in it. I love tarot decks without faces. So I'm very like, the Rider-Waite is probably one of the few human decks that I could use when it comes to the tarot. But I really prefer plants and animals, and just kind of like random, like the Avissomnia has more random feel. Yeah, so the Botanica Occulta Tarot is going to be a very popular pick, I feel, this next couple of months. And last but not least, of course, I have to get into the Rider-Waites. So my Rider-Waite picks for the winter season tend to be more of my muted decks and my black and whites. So I do have the Pamela Colman Smith RWS Tarot deck. This one is a very muted deck. I call it like my gray deck, the gray space Rider-Waite. It is very muted. It is very pale and just kind of gives you that cold feel when you look at it. So I think this one will look really nicely, especially because some of my other decks that I chose are very bright and pops of color. So I think when you kind of balance it out with a muted deck, it just looks really nice. I also went with the Glow in the Dark Tarot. It's a black and white deck. I do have a black and white Rider-Waite, but I love the cardstock in the Glow in the Dark. I just like the way it feels. I love the way it shuffles, and it's matte. And I think that's one reason why I wanted to go with this one instead of my other one, because my other one is kind of glossy. So I just love the way this looks, and I don't know, it's just a favorite. The whole look of this deck, the box, the way the cardstock feels, the card backs, it's just so good. And it's definitely one of my favorites. The black and white Rider-Waite Tarot deck. This is another brand new one that I picked up last week. Actually, it just recently came out as well. It has no borders. The cards are white with the black line work. It's beautiful. The cardstock on this is linen. It has a linen finish. So the shuffling experience is way better. And I feel like the cards just look more crisp and put together. So love this one, and it's going to be really fun to use it side by side. Like I said, some of my more brighter Oracle decks that I picked. Okay, guys, so let's talk about Oracle. These Oracle decks that I chose are kind of blends of witchy decks, floral decks, and some animals. I hope that you guys are inspired by some of these because these are seriously some of my most favorite. So let's start off with some animal decks. Spirit Animal, this is actually a fun one that I found on Amazon. This deck is so good and I have used it so many times in my readings lately. You get animal messages, you get to pick an animal card. It has a spirit animal message. It's really, really accurate and it's really descriptive. And so you really don't need much else with this. Like this deck speaks for itself. And I really love it. And it also has a whale in the deck. So that was also one of the reasons why I had to pick it up. The Woodland Wardens, this one absolutely is a winter deck in and of itself. It's very fall as well, but this one is totally winter vibes. You just get that feel of walking through the woodland forest and having all of the animals coming up to you. And it's just a really sweet deck. The card stock is very, the pictures, the imagery, the colors are very muted and very soft, I guess is the good way to say it. Natural, vintage, I don't know. It's just a beautiful deck and I totally recommend this one for anybody who loves to work with animals, or you work with animal guide messages, or you're looking for an animal deck, but something that is more for the winter or the colder seasons. This is a really, really good one. And the card backs on this deck are so beautiful. Let's go into some plant decks. So the Mushroom Spirit Oracle, this was also a new one I picked up last week. This is really, really good, I will say. I normally do not like mushrooms. They kind of freak me out a little bit. But I will have to say the artwork on this is absolutely gorgeous. The guidebook is really, really good, and you get a good little message with each mushroom photo. So I would definitely recommend this one if you love plant decks or you're looking to add another plant deck to your collection, but something that's a little bit different from the typical flowers and herbs. The mushroom one, really, really good to use. This was a sweet little deck that I found at Barnes & Noble. This is called the Herbal Tea Magic for Modern Witch. When I saw this one on the shelf, I was surprised. The cards are beautiful. The images are beautiful. The colors are beautiful. And just the messages. I don't even use the guidebook, but you can. And it's just a perfect deck if you are looking to work with plant energy. You like to put tea concoctions together, and maybe you want to see what divination messages come with each of those plants that you were using. It's just a really, really, really good deck and so sweet and just the perfect pop of color in my opinion. So some witchy decks that I also picked. Of course, I picked my Seasons of the Witch Yule Oracle. This will be the one that I will be using all through the month of December. I cannot wait. It is such a fun, sweet, cozy deck. And also if you love Christmas season, if you love just the whole Yule energy, you love animals, woodland creatures, witches, spells, like all of this beautiful magical stuff that makes this season what it is. This is a really, really, really good deck for that. And the Seasons of the Witch series, I already put a video out prior, so make sure you watch that one as well. But the Seasons of the Witch series is one of my favorites. The guidebooks are so good. The messages are so rich and everything always resonates. It's so good. The other Seasons of the Witch in bulk will be the one that I pull out for January. So January moving into February. Again, you have that winter wonderland kind of essence with this deck. Lots of animals, lots of witches, lots of good stuff, really good messages. I'm just super, super excited to work with this one and see what good messages come with that. I'm telling you guys, those decks are so good. The Seasons of the Witch are probably my favorite. They're probably literally my favorite decks in terms of a series, okay? Speaking of witches, I do have one more that I really, really like. That is the Literary Witches Oracle. So this one goes into the different writers. So you'll have like famous writers. When I got this deck, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it. I really actually do like it. You have to use the guidebook, so I will say that. It is one of those decks where you're going to have to use the guidebook, but it has a lot of really good information. The cards themselves are very intuitive, so you can get quite a bit from just the imagery of the cards. And I just really enjoy it. I think it's a fun little deck. So I was very pleasantly surprised by that one. The Wild and Sacred Feminine deck. So this one isn't necessarily witchy. It's more earthy, or like if you're into like the earth medicine and that kind of energy. This deck is really, really good for that. I like to pull this one mostly for myself. This is more of like an insightful, let me pull a card, let's journal about it. I will read the guidebook for myself and just kind of get myself into this zone of writing from within my heart. So this is a very inspiring deck for that. You could definitely use this in readings. I have used this in my mentorship sessions as well. And it's just one of those decks that really gets you thinking and really brings out a lot of the deeper stuff that's within you that maybe you didn't realize was there. Literally, it's like a therapy deck. Spirit of Nature Oracle. So when I was pulling out my plant decks, I was like, ooh, I haven't used the trees in a long time. So definitely wanted to grab this one. I love the way the box looks with the green. It's just gorgeous. So plant decks, flower decks, I love them, but there's also tree decks. So this is one of those. And I think it's really sweet. It just has like a very cozy feel to it. And if you love tree energy, if you love plant energy, this is probably, a really cool one to check out, just saying. But those are my tarot and oracle deck picks for the winter season. I'm already going to be working with some of them going into winter now, because literally today's the 21st, I think. So we're pretty much in this transition mode of fall going into winter. Fall season is definitely a favorite of mine, but I also like winter as well. And yeah, so hopefully these decks inspired you, and let me know, do you own any of these? Do you work with any of these during this time of year? What are your favorite decks to work with during the winter season? I would love to hear. And other than that, thank you guys for tuning in, and I will talk to you later. Bye, my loves.